Big Talk, hosted by Canary Mugume.
On 106.1 Next Radio.
106.1 Next Radio. This is the Big Talk. I'm Canary Mugume, and welcome all of you in Uganda, around the world, listening or watching the show. Tonight on the show, we look at the demonstrators that are in court, March to Parliament demonstration. A number of people, I think about 12 were given, I think 13 were given bail. That is both in the Nakao Magistrates Court together with Buganda Road Magistrates Court. And well, while this goes on, there's a group that will be coming in, of course, on Tuesday tomorrow, another on Thursday, and then Friday, and then next week on Tuesday. Together, all of them that have been incarcerated are 104, but a few of them, only 10%, have been able to secure temporary freedom, I could say. That is bail. But as we go on with this conversation of March to Parliament, and the demonstration is the Judiciary, is the office of the DPP on trial. We understand that some files were recorded of some of the protesters that are supposed to appear in Parliament, or rather in court, I beg your pardon, and there's fear that even these charges could be amended. The President says that the evidence that will come to courts of law will be shocking to many. What is he alluding to? That's the conversation we're having this evening on the Big Talk. And on the show today, I'm joined by Henry Mugume, who is the Executive Director of ACFEM. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Canary, and good evening, listeners. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Also joining us on the show is political commentator, that's Isaac Kayonde. Good to have you on the show, Isaac.
Thank you very much for hosting us.
Yeah. Henry, let me begin with you. This temporary freedom, and also, remember, this is bail off a charge that was discontinued a long time ago. No one understands what the state is doing. Is the DPP and Judiciary on trial? And then we'll get to the foreign funding later.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think everyone is on trial here.
Interesting.
Because you see, we have a group of young men and women who are justifiably dissatisfied with the way their country is being managed. Young men and women who know that they are citizens. Okay? And as citizens, they have rights, civil and political rights. They have perhaps also read the Constitution. And the Constitution, I think it's Article 71, Article 17, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Article 17I, that says it prescribes the duties of a citizen and says that it is the duty of every citizen to participate in fighting corruption and misuse of government resources. These young men and women also know that there exists something called the law of agency. The law of agency, as we know it, prescribes that there is a principal. There's also an agent. For example, if I own a company, I subcontract you, Canary, as an agent. You work for me. You go and sell my things or do what I've sent you to do. You come back, I give you a pay. Or it could be a commission. So you work for me. So because you work for me, I hold you accountable to the terms and conditions of the agreement of agency. Now, in national matters, the principal are actually the citizens. The agent are the men and women we have voted for to sit in political office and make decisions on our behalf. So the young men and women have also learned, they've gone to school and learned that as the principal, it is contingent on you to hold the principal accountable to those terms and conditions for which you voted them into office, which is why every 5 years they come back to renew their mandate. They also know that accountability is not given on a silver platter. It is demanded, you must rise. They also know that for the last 3-4 years, the government in office has been preaching about patriotism. Patriotism is about being a good citizen, an active citizen. We have often said that this country, Uganda, has been suffering from lack of citizens because it has occupants. An occupant is that who is the country and sees wrong things being done and his response is like Tabin Kwataku. The citizen is concerned. This is what patriotism is. So these young men and women who have been demonstrating and exercising their duties as active citizens find themselves behind bars, which is why I say every compos mentis Ugandan that wishes this country well is on trial. Because even as the elderly citizens are on trial, because where have we been for this? Because what did we do when the things that have riled and incensed young people have been ongoing? We did nothing. Whether you are in the private sector, so the courts and everybody is on trial, it is regrettable what is happening with our children, our young brothers and sisters, for being pacified for the crime of being active, which is specified and articulated in the Constitution that you must have. It is actually a duty. It's not an option for you to be active. So everybody's on trial. That's what I think, and it is actually regrettable.
Quite interesting opinion right there from Henry Mugume. Isaac, I want to come to you. When you look at what is happening, looks like we do not understand the next state by the state. One, these are people being charged on an act that was discontinued a long time ago. So this should be illegal from the start. And then we see a few of them secure bail. We see the president's tweet from last week. We do not know what the next step is going to be. Do you think that this does put the DPP and Judiciary on trial?
Thank you very much, Canary. First and foremost, there are things which are indefensible and obviously not right. The law they are using really has been, was struck off. I don't know whether it was struck off, but I think the president made it clear some time back that this law and
idle and
disorderly should be struck off the books. That's absolutely unfathomable. But on the other hand, I see a situation where the state panicked and was handling a fluid situation, and they just did things as and when they thought that they should contain this situation. I mean, this is unprecedented, to go into court, you're arrested, go into court, you're charged even before, investigations or whatever it is they did. In that sense, really, there's everything is wrong with these trials on that part. But on the other hand, I expected that that is the reaction we expected from government anyway, right? When these protesters were starting this campaign, right? And for me, where I credit government for is that in as much as individuals, we have a right to protest. It is our duty to ensure that these protests run within the boundaries of those protests. The cause is a pure cause, corruption, right? So everybody goes and takes it to the streets. But where are the boundaries of this? Where are the boundaries of these protests? If police has been informed and police says no, where are the boundaries of the leaders when police informed Tony Natif to try and get with the ones who are leading on Twitter, to try and get them to organize such that police gives them, what did they call it, a corridor passage to Parliament to present a petition.
Safe corridor.
A safe corridor. Yeah, that you would have demonstrated, you would have delivered your petition, you would then demand for a result out of that. Yeah. But obviously, and that's if Tony Natif's narrative is anything to go by. So he tries to call these leaders of the ones that were on Twitter and pushing for this, and they told him off, right? So police, in a way, had found a compromise for the protesters to deliver their grievance, right?
I think what they're saying is that, look, where you're creating a compromise. Why? Because I also saw police, I think the other week, saying that they should have changed the venue, should have changed where they're beginning from.
It's well, in as much as I think it's not
within their mandate.
It's not within their mandate. It's within the law that, look, when you're going to protest anywhere in the world, whether it is in Kenya, USA, or wherever, you inform police. Public order management is not something that was invented in Uganda. It is something that, happens elsewhere. There's such a thing as unintended consequences. And I will give you this, that you see, the protests could have easily they would have gone to Parliament and stated that, look, we are marching for corruption, we want Anita to go, right? And if they had succeeded, who is there to say that they wouldn't demand for more? Who is there to tell us that they wouldn't have said, okay, this government must fall? But the government has a mandate from the people for 5 years. So when you look at it, there's a very thin line between public order management and the right to protest. Now, I'll give you an example. In Sudan, this has been quoted elsewhere. In Sudan, they went to protest against high bread price inflation, really, because the government had removed subsidies thanks to IMF and World Bank advisory. The protesters managed to seek government to put back the subsidies, which government didn't. They went ahead and demanded for Omar Bashir's fall. And indeed he fell, right? 129 protesters died after the fall of Bashir. But guess what? The law of unintended consequences is that today Sudan is in a civil war. Today Sudan has 2.5 million internally displaced people. If you asked where are the leaders of those protests, they're nowhere to be seen. They are not anywhere in the equation of what Sudan is suffering today. The Sen government will obviously try and find a balance between protecting people's rights to demonstrate and protecting the state and destruction. So that intricate balance is always a difficult thing to have. You go to Kenya, the same thing happens.
Okay, if there was a thin line between public order management and the right to protest, and indeed security had intelligence that the protests could be hijacked by wrong elements, are these the ones in court?
No, that's the thing. This is, and the thing has,
are these the ones being charged with an illegal act?
That's why I said in the first place, the people who are in jail or whatever simply participated, right? I'm not condoning in any way that what government is doing is right. But what I'm saying is that a movement like this can so easily turn a normal, good, otherwise intended cause and turn it into something that the unintended consequence. And that's why I'm saying, when you look at Kenya, they had the finance bill, they marched for it, they got it. They struck it off. But the unintended consequence is that you have an embassy, which has just been renovated from Uganda, destroyed. Was that part of the finance bill? You have a parliament which was burnt. Was that part of the finance bill? You have people going to offices of the governors and everything. Was that part of the finance bill? So, for me, it's a question of at what point does the state protect itself? Now, the people who are in jail are going to come out eventually, I believe, in my opinion. And maybe the state is trying to play some delaying tactics to see how far this goes, or, as they find time to clear it. But as we have seen, they have brought people to court on flimsy charges and they have walked. So it might be a very huge inconvenience for people like the people who are in the court. But I don't think that government has any other cards to play at this point.
All right. Henry, Isaac mentions how there's a thin line between public management, order management, and the right to protest. That these protests, if the state had not protected, whatever was there to protect, that this could easily break into a cartoon or something like that. But isn't the cost of maintaining this and quelling the protests even higher than just dealing with the actual problem?
I think you're right. You see, the challenge we have as a country is that the policy, the principle is not to allow any form of expression, freedom of expression in the form of demonstrations. And you see, when you do that, you will have closed all the ways through which people can vent their anger. Now, when you get young people who have very genuine, legitimate concerns, and you treat them the way you have treated them, I think for those who have never been to jail, they have just what they've gone through is can be equated to losing virginity. So when you lose virginity, you don't stop, you continue. So I think this is not going in any way to subdue or to suppress the thoughts, the revolutionary ideas of these young people. If you look at young people who we have been told from the census that these constitute about, what was the population of?
Those below 18,
below 30,
78.
We are like 78.
Below 35.
Now, these are young people who have just listened from one of the bushwa fighters, Ndugu Honorable Afande Kahindo Tafire, who was telling them, look guys, get it from me, a bushwa fighter. I'm telling you that the people who are looting your country and depriving you of your future have a smaller stake. Some of them don't have more than 15 years to live. We are all human. We will die. But you, who is 22, you maybe have another 50 years to live. So why would you let this person destroy your future? Do something. So when they read into that, you get to see that these ideas are not going to stop. So by querying them the way they have done, I think that get to scare them off or keep them at bay in any way. It will only bury down into the ground these ideas from where they will sprout with an even bigger, stronger magnitude. So I think what we have to get used to is the fear, is that any form of demonstration will be taken advantage of by the wrong elements that want to destabilize our government and our peace. It doesn't necessarily go that whenever, people demonstrate, then the necessary concomitant is going to be that the government is going to fall, which seems to be the fear. So I think it's important that these young people get to enjoy their rights. The police should have guided them. But you see, to even imagine that you have to go to police and police will say yes or no, that you are subjecting your political rights, your civil rights, at the whims and caprices of these men and women in uniform, when the High Court was clear on that point, that police does not have the locus to grant permission, they only have to be notified. So I think we have to go back and rethink. I don't think these young men are going to put down their guns, because the conditions under which they are living are not going to improve anytime soon. And as long as they continue to suffer the same deplorable conditions, I'm sure they will continue to get more and more angry.
When you look at, Isaac, when you look at some of the demands that the young people have put forward on different forums, is that too much to ask?
First of all, the demands, again, there's a swinging pendulum, as in what are the demands? The clarity of the demands are not, unless you have a list. But I can tell you the demands come from this person should resign, Anita Among should resign, who else?
The parliamentary commissioners. But regardless of whether there's clarity or not, I think they're speaking with one language, that government has failed to rein in on the corrupt, and if there's any time to act is now.
Yeah.
For example, there's overwhelming evidence. Or if you don't consider it as evidence, why not subject it to investigation to see if there's any bone in it? Overwhelming evidence against the speaker and all these documents that have leaked online and been presented by different forums. The question is, how do you deal with the public anger and even allow leaders to go on rallies and tell people that it's okay to eat, it's okay to steal.
Exactly. For me, this is the thing. You know, it's very easy to point. But the victims who are us, the population, are the same individuals who are voting in these people. I listened to something so despicable when one of the MPs is on the podium and his business saying, you know what, stole and then they brought you money. And people are chanting. And guess what? That person will come back to parliament. Now, who do you blame at that point? The Constitution is very clear, I think, in my opinion. It has given ways and means in which you should be able to solve discontent, especially politically. Now, one of the things I saw about these protests, or what I felt was a difference, is the fact that the politicians were out of it, right? My only problem
that is partyless.
Partyless, leaderless, and all those things that they do, fearless and all. But you cannot divorce, and I had him talk about Otafire, you cannot divorce a cause that can be hijacked by the politicians. Where Otafire has been in government since 1990. He has over 5 allegations of corruption, which I'm not saying that he's corrupt, but, you know,
that he doesn't have the moral ground.
He's not the poster child for a corrupt free nation. I'm sorry to say. But the idea is that, look, why I believe that public order management is very crucial at this point, especially in movements like this, is because of that very thin line where you have citizen discontent and then you have political discontent.
You raise a very important point, and when you talk about clarity of the issues or the demands from the young people, I think everywhere the banners, the T-shirts are printed, the hashtags online, and how else does government need clarity?
I'll give you an example. You see, protesters were wearing freedom for us, right? They were wearing...
Anita must resign.
Anita must resign. That's okay. They were wearing, this is our 1986. Now, it doesn't take rocket science to know that even the people who are in opposition, especially the people in the political space, are hoping that this movement could generate a critical mass for them to demand for the political change that they want, right? And by all means, I mean, I'm not begrudging anyone for wanting political change. That's their... That's up to them. But the idea that it's very clear how you do it, you know. I want to go back to the issue about corruption because, and I don't want.
But before I lose you on that,
yes.
It's clear also that government did not need clarity of the issues that these people are raising.
Yeah, but guess
because
what?
If it needed clarity, maybe all these people that were rounded up should have been put in a town hall
But
meeting
let me tell you something.
and asked what are the issues.
Again.
If all these years they have been.
This comes at a backdrop. This comes at a backdrop where you're having MPs never before, unprecedented, are in court for taking bribes. You have lawyers, you have things are happening. Now, if it is the fact that they were creating awareness over this corruption, these movements which have been on Twitter have gotten government listening. You know, you have this parliamentary exhibition, right? People are listening. You know, people. It was the precursor to all these things, right? And there was steps taken by government. And they may not be those that the people want, right? But certainly things are unfolding. Things are unfolding faster than many people imagine they are.
Right. Henry, let me ask you this. Is it true that there is no clarity of the issues or demands that have been at the background of this movement and protests?
No.
Or government just is not interested in listening?
So, the issues that are being raised are clear even to the, are visible to the blind and audible to the deaf. Because these are issues that the whole country has been grappling with. We have just come out of an exhibition in Parliament that exposed the rot and the thuggery and looting that happens. If they tell you that one person, now I'm putting myself in the shoes of this young person. This young person is putting on a patched jean and a t-shirt and then holding a smartphone. They don't have what to eat. All they have are bundles, internet bundles. He's seated there. Now he reads, suddenly, there's this tweet that came through and somebody was purporting that this dress of the speaker was purchased from this store at £1,500. They know how to convert that into shillings. And then they also see the speaker that is the person who, if she put on one cloth today, the next time she might put it on again would be after 6 months. So you could now see too many of these. Now, this anger has been there. We have just come out of the potholes exhibition. The citizens, the mature people that are driving are unhappy and angry about the potholes. The people at the grassroots level, the services are not there. You go to a health center, there are no qualified personnel. The theaters are not there. But you hear the money needed for a theater has been looted by one person. So there is anger, generally. And you see, let me say this. You see, the fight against corruption is not unique to Uganda. The corruption you're grappling with is not new. Nations have gone through this. And therefore, the best practices that have been used First of all, you cannot fight corruption by putting everybody in jail. I mean, are you going to put a whole country into jail? What's the size of the jails you have? So corruption is a collective, fighting corruption is a collective effort. It must be fought not only by the head of state, and that head of state must have a consistent tone at the top. The cabinet must be fighting it. The parliament must join in. The judiciary must join in. The media must join in. Civil society, the young, the women, the old, everybody must fight it. So for me, if I was the head of state, I would welcome this. Because you see, sometimes as the head of state, as the politicians, sometimes also you want to hear what is going on in the gallery. Because that's what politicians do. You hear from the citizenry. The citizenry are helping to give you feedback. And they are, supporting in affirmative your actions. You cannot say that these that are trying to add their voice to fighting corruption should leave it, put them, incarcerate them. The fight against corruption is mine. Nobody has ever succeeded in fighting corruption. And by the way, when he was talking about, we were asking about the question of should they have asked for the speaker to resign. These young men and women are on social media. We've just learned that across the borders in a neighboring country, there's a minister who has been sacked on allegations of corruption. So the tone is there. The examples are there. So I think...
What more do they want?
What more do they want? So I think it baffles the young people. I feel for these young people. I know what I was when I had just left university. You are helpless. You have no job. You have nothing to eat. You have nowhere to sleep. You have aspirations. Because you have graduated, you want better.
And you have a family back in the village that is calling you about how they need support.
You cannot find these, and then you read the news every day. Uganda is awash every day with the scandals of people that are looting. People are unhappy. People are angered. But I can also understand the fear on the side of the state. They think the state can collapse on the weight of corruption. They think that this can go on like a desert wildfire that will be, manipulated and hijacked by people with wrong intents that would want to take us to the turmoil. I want us to be clear. None of us citizens wants to go back to the turmoil we went through. We have agreed that the only way we want to change leadership in this country is through elections. We do not want to go back through turmoil. Okay. But also we do not want to sabotage and subdue and deny the young people and other citizens their rights of expression, of freedom of assembly, association, and others.
You raise an important point when you say if you are the president, you would be interested in this and you'd actually call for a conversation. We're going to talk about two things. One, dialogue, but two, the president actually looks like he's not interested because when he says the protests were funded by foreign elements, what exactly does he mean?
Turn it up with Nest Radio.
Music station.
All day, every day.
Back to the music.
Turn it up.
Big Talk, hosted by Canary Mugume.
On 106.1 Nest Radio.
106.1 X Radio. This is the Big Talk. I'm Canary Mugume, and we are looking at the protesters in court and whether the DPP Judiciary are all on trial and what needs to be done. The president insists these protests were funded by foreign elements with an intention to harm Uganda and Ugandans. In the studios tonight, I'm hosting Henry Mguzi, who is the executive director of ACFIM, together with Isaac Kayonde, who is a political commentator. Isaac, let me get to you. Before we get to a conversation between young protesters and the state, when the president insists that these were funded by foreign elements with an intention to harm Ugandans, what is his intention? And he says he has evidence and that it will shock many in court. What is his intention?
Many a citizen don't have the information that the president has or are not privy to some of the information he has. There have been allegations thrown around the Ford Foundation, and I think President Ruto, they had a spat in Kenya over this Ford, and Ford finances many NGOs here. I think one of the things that government grapples with in this day and era is the fact that I want to use the term believability. A word, is that people don't trust government. Government has a problem with communicating with its population. The population is young. The people are communicating are way older than their population. So whether the president has evidence or not, okay, yes, fine, it may come to court. But certainly anyone who is looking at the situation right now would hardly believe him, right? And we can only wish that whatever he has can be brought to court. But in my opinion, really, I don't think that holds any water. What I think is more of a factor is that inspiration. That the young people in this country were inspired by the events of Kenya. And it
also happened at a time when all these exhibitions online were going on.
Yes. So I would believe that, look, no one is influencing anybody to do anything. However, what we can say is that, and earlier Mr. Henry said something to do with the government has a fear, right? And that fear, rightly, it has a fear that, these protests can so easily turn into something else, right? And they are absolutely, it's their right within the state to protect the stability of the state. Because the precedent, all over Africa especially, when it comes to demonstration, has been that eventually the government falls from those seemingly innocent protests. Now, that said, really, I feel like the president again has missed an opportunity to connect with the public. But anybody who sees, and that's the disconnect between the generations, how he tackles corruption and how the young generation wants him to tackle it are two different things. I mean, for him, the way he's doing is to create another agency, to supervise another agency, to watch another agency as a method of fighting it, while the youth just say, look, fire people. That's all they want. Just fire whoever.
Fire people, create systems of transparency.
And that's it. Or, I mean, us who think that, look, a lot of money is being misused here and there, fund the agencies which are constitutionally mandated to fight corruption. So it's a bit of it's that disconnect that the government has with its citizens.
Yeah. Talking about the disconnect, is that why he has shielded and protected the people the young generation wants them resigned?
Okay.
Like the speaker, Anita.
Again, I don't want to go into individual cases because of one thing. Is that, you see, we have had in this country situations where allegations are made and not proven. But you see, once such allegations are made, right now in the public eye, it is you're guilty before you're proven.
Yeah.
But
at least due process, investigate.
No, my thing is this, that you see, someone throwing out something like, I'll give you an example. The State House during COVID went and paraded the permanent secretary of public service, of Prime Minister's office and the commissioner. The Prime Minister, the PS of OPM was Gawa today. And guess what? Nakalema goes, parades her, says, you know what? There was corruption because they had inflated prices of maize and beans, right? By a margin of 1,000 shillings or anything like that. And I said, okay. Now they paraded them, took them to anti-corruption court, they went to remand, they came back, we're going to bail. Guess what? Today, those cases have been dismissed because of a lack of evidence. And the issue there was a market force, where you're supplying government, obviously someone adds premium because of the shortages. These are things which were known. Now, at this point, the populace didn't even get into it. She has lost her job. She has lost her credibility. Now, what the president was clear, and I felt like that was a good approach to things, is that, look, first get the evidence, look through it, right, and then charge.
And I think that's what the movement online is asking. That fine, one, foreign countries have sanctioned the same person. There's overwhelming evidence on Twitter, and all these documents that have leaked. Okay. You might not resign because the people who elected her as speaker will have to impeach her, and many think that or have a feeling that she's been able to put at least majority of them in her pocket. But the point is, if there's all this overwhelming evidence, why don't you investigate? Why does she look like she's immune?
Well, and I'll say this. Okay, I want to really dissociate the aspect of foreign interference in our affairs, because certainly if they choose to sanction, they can sanction whoever they want. But the idea that, look, you sanction, the excuse they gave was that they are sanctioning Anita,
let's be clear.
Oh, sorry. The
Anita with an
the E and the A.
No, triple A.
The E and the A. The fact that they are sanctioning Anita, they, in their statement, said she had deprived, right, poor people of iron sheets, right? When you look, charge sheet, Anita had taken, I think, 500 iron sheets. You look through the worth of those iron sheets, say on average, say 50,000 or is like maybe 15 million. Do you honestly believe that the so-called powers that be were sanctioning someone for $2,500 or $3,000? Yet we have serious scandals in this country.
If that was the case, which I don't believe is, but
my point is, so
even if it's $1 million shillings,
look,
corruption is corruption.
Corruption is corruption. My point is, look here, that people who stole their money that they had given us through Gavi funds, no one was sanctioned, right? So you don't come here and walk the moral high ground to say that, oh, okay, you stole 15 million from the poor people. So with Anita's case, I don't want to defend her. No, it's a of dominance and sovereignty at that level of sanctions, and I don't want to take anything away.
Okay, but why is the state overlooking the evidence online?
Why is the state? My understanding is this: that allegations have been made. The problem I have, and the problem I have with the parliament, is that they have a duty to account to the public, right? They have said that some of these documents have been forged. Nobody has taken this case to court to check these documents. As it is right now, they have been judged guilty by simply putting evidence on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, it's a simple thing. Citizen action should go beyond just saying you're corrupt.
Okay.
It should be
Thanks, Isaac. Anyway, look, so the speaker is sanctioned the president calls for an investigation on whether she has property in the UK or not. Young people online put evidence of her dealings online, and the president is quiet. It means that probably if there's anyone who listens to the Pharaoh elements, it's the president, more than the young people he does accuse.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, for me, if I come to your question proper, I like it that the president says that there's evidence. We want to see that evidence. Because the head of state is privy to a lot of intelligence information. So we just wait and see. Now, I also know that the president is good at propaganda. So I know when we were young, we grew up being told that this is a guy who mutates, becomes a chameleon, then becomes a cat. That was all propaganda. So that propaganda continues. But having said that, the president also knows that it is important to listen to the gallery because he listens to what the people are saying. I'm very sure the president has listened to whatever was on Twitter. And he knows what he has to do. But the challenge now, I'm speaking as a political scientist. Sometimes because, when you are in power, nobody would excuse you if you just lost power just like that. If you put on weighing scale and discover that however corrupt this person is useful. And that if I, reigned in so hard on this person,
that
I must lose something. It could be vote, whatever, a constituency or something, you go slow. So that's politics. That's the nature of politics.
But it is the same constituency. It's the same constituency asking him to act.
So when young people are asking,
because that's why he derives the legitimacy.
He's putting their demands on one side and his interests on another side. And let me tell you, the president knows if anybody has information about if it is true what is being alleged on social media as was adduced by documents, so that the speaker is that corrupt, the president would know. In fact, he knows. So if anybody is going to act, it should be him. What I know, I've come to learn about him in the last 40 years. Almost 40 years, is that he's the one person that calculates very well. He knows when to take action. So maybe he knows when to respond to these. And I don't think he has buried them. He is studying them carefully and verifying.
But do you think the young people will be patient with him?
Of course not.
To wait until
the young people have no patience. The young people have no patience. I speak here in support of them, but I also know the unintended consequences he spoke about. Because you do not want those people with the wrong elements that just want to assemble rising, to ride on and destabilize this country and make us slip back to the turmoil we went through. So I think we need to play our cards very carefully. But the freedoms of speech, expression, association that young people so desire and so want, and their anger about how the men and women, the profligacy of men and women in public office, and how they are enriching themselves and using money anyhow without prioritizing the needs of the young people. I think these are things the young people are not going to take. You can intimidate them, cajole them, however you want, incarcerate them. This is not going to stop them.
So let me go back to my question. I know you say that he's waiting for the right moment to act. Isn't that going to be costly? Should he take long? For the state, for government, and even for the country.
Yeah, so
the speaker over the weekend at the deputy speaker's functional rally, where she said that I'm here for one more term, and then after I hand it over to the deputy speaker, it's as if that everything, she's confident that everything is in her control.
Yeah, absolutely. The confidence with which she's speaking and the way she's exuding herself around, carrying herself around, you get to see that it can only happen if she's been given assurance. By guess who? So I'm sure she has been assured that your position is well safeguarded. Continue doing. I'm sure that I don't know, but I think she has a mission, and so I can imagine she speaks from a point of confidence. She knows come rain, come sun, she will be elected. Come through the rest of the election, she was unopposed. I'm sure she knows she will be unopposed again because she has the money to buy. So you would expect that when she comes to Parliament, we had the stories that members of Parliament had voted for her. We are bagging 2 million, 5 million, or excess thereof. So you know that she knows how to manipulate Parliament, and I think she remains useful to the regime in power. And so you can almost conclude that. She will be speaker next time.
Okay, let me engage just one more round of questions just before we pick a comment here on the people listening in online. Isaac, if the president is to listen to the voices of the young people, for example, they're saying that Anita must resign, what should he do? Because the speaker was elected by parliamentarians. How should the president act?
The president should act based on evidence, right?
No, what I'm saying, even if the evidence
one thing you can't divorce in this corruption fight is the politics. Politics has become something in this country. Everything has a political connotation under it. This corruption fight, I would not be surprised when it is hijacked by the politics. You know, I'll give you an example of Noop. You know, a president comes and says, look, the leader of opposition, this has taken the money, please refund or, you know, leave the party. And the other one makes a stance. I mean, he goes and fires Mpuga over taking a service award, right, or gratuity, as Mpuga defends it. But somehow appoints someone who has some not so clear allegations against him, right? Like the 14 million where he went to Nairobi and then came back and then refunded that money and everything. So you see that he has to play the politics of understanding that, look, if I went hard on this corruption thing, it is already causing a rift. Now, at what point do you fight the corruption? At what point do you further your political objectives of change of government? So it's a very intricate balance, and I believe that many decisions are intertwined on how to fight these corrupt leaders, are intertwined in the politics. The president will make, I don't think will make, he's probably likely to make a political decision on the fight against corruption in parliament.
Right. And lastly, how should we divorce politics from the fight against corruption?
You can't. Because you can see that the politics, the corruption we are grappling with that has come an issue lately is that which we term as political corruption. And this political corruption, like it or not, has a stronger nexus with the way we finance our campaigns. And we're headed into an election. And everybody knows that in that election, money must speak, must talk. The voters are waiting for it. Those that are going to campaign are already preparing to spend it. We were told recently that the 50,000 notes have actually disappeared. So those who are holding the 50,000 notes are waiting for the right time to release them. So we cannot delink corruption, political corruption from politics, because it's the very thing that feeds it. The money that finances our elective politics is that comes from proceeds of corruption, partly. And therefore, we'll continue to see this until such a time when have dialogue over what political system we want to have, over how we want to determine who gets to vote to vote into office to govern us. So these will remain. But the last one I want to say is that it's important we make a clarion call to government and the people, the institutions thereof, that let them concentrate more on arresting thieves rather than arresting citizens, because the citizens have a justifiable cry. Thank you.
What a better way to this conversation.
Big Talk, hosted by Canary Mugume.
On 106.
Yes, Nelson, let's pick your view. Nelson, you're there?
Thank you, Canary. Good evening, everyone. It's quite a very interesting topic that we're discussing today, but in just a very short brief, Canary, the next time you invite people, please give us a bit of background about them so that we know who is talking to us in regard of what the young people are standing for at the moment. Isaac seems to be very much indifferent of what exactly is happening to this country and what corruption is doing to this country, because corruption scandals are covered in the national media, and the same things that are used politicians to attack the other parties. Yeah, and political actors like Isaac are benefiting from this, claiming that the entire political elite are caught up in corrupt networks. He said he's a political scientist, but his analysis of what exactly this corruption is affecting the last Ugandan, someone who has no access to water, someone who has no access to electricity, someone who has no access to education. The young people are not actually asking the president to step down. Every single person is asking, what should the president do? The things are really clear what the young people are asking for. As the president, if you are confident, it's the same thing about Anita. If you're confident there is no corruption scandal surrounded around your name, step aside. Let investigations be done. If you know that there is a corruption scandal around you, be shameful enough to step down and resign. But it is not what is happening. All of these political actors, these political analysts are all rubbing the shoulder of, Anita, we've got your back. We're going to keep speaking for you. The parliament will defend it as much as we can, because everyone is on a milk card. And this is not what the young people are expecting from these people to do. They really want to hold these people accountable. And I think we are moving away from the politics of naive Ugandans, taking Ugandans for granted, gaslighting them, to politics of accountability. The countries that we always want to probably go to, they are not growing because they have their MPs that speak the best languages, they speak the best English, whatever. They've gone to the best schools. No, it's simply because the public is holding these people accountable of what they are doing, and this is what the young people are asking for. So coming here, Isaac, sweet talking Ugandans about the president shouldn't be doing this. This is all you gaslighting Ugandans. The young people want accountability. If your name has showed up in any political scandal, and you're confident you didn't steal any money, step aside, let investigations go on, and if you're found to be innocent, well and good. If something really comes back to haunt you of your deeds that you have done before, property is going to be taken off you. All what you're posing to own in the name of corruption should be taken. That's the kind of accountability that the young people are asking for. So please, let's not gaslight them. Let's listen to what they're asking for. Look at the courts today. 2 incidents that happened in court today. People have been presented. Yes, charges are valid according to the state. But to the Ugandans, they are invalid because the constitution is not being respected. And then one of the magistrates goes ahead to remand a group of two young people, and they are remanded till the 18th of August. I think it was 18th or the 19th of August. Quite absurd that it had to take a social media drive for the magistrates to be able to recall that file and issue bail to these people. We really need the judiciary to respect the constitution. People are being charged of crimes that are unconstitutional, crimes that the president has come out and said, I done disorderly. It's very much unconstitutional, and it's something that we shouldn't be charging Ugandans. But the judges, the magistrates are receiving the files, reading these crimes, and they're remanding someone over something that is very unconstitutional. Quite unfortunate, but we pray and hope for the better times, and I don't think the young people are really going to step down in terms of asking for accountability and asking those that are really affecting their future in terms of corruption to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelson, for your voice. Noira N. Blanca. Noira M. Blanca.
Nora and Blanca. Thank you, Canary. Thank you, Nelson. To be honest, I find it very pretentious, genuinely very pretentious for so many of us and so many of the elites who have been speaking in the past few days on different spaces, different TV shows, different radios, talk shows like this one. Because at the end of the day, many of you are seated in the comfort of your homes or, different countries, your wonderful cars, and you are comfortable, you're good. Everything is good for you, but you don't even seem to realize how much privilege you have to be able to live like that. And you don't even realize how much privilege you have to be able to actually get onto a space and speak so much, I will just say spew so much gaslighting towards young people. You've not lived in our shoes. You've literally lived the life you've lived because you had a leg up somewhere. The taxes you have now are not the same taxes you had years before. Now, imagine us young people who have these taxes, who have black tax included, who have to pay NSSF, and then our hospitals are not working, and then our schools, the schools that we should be able to take our children to, are not working. I come from a district called Manafa. And in Manafa, where I come from, there's another small, tiny place where I come from, where my grandpapa was born and where he's buried right now. So, of course, I'm not a Muzukulu. And my grandpapa's village has a tiny, that's supposed to be, I think, a health center. I don't even know what number that is. And that health center is supposed to be filled with doctors and medication and equipment and everything else. It has nothing. It's literally a god shed. It's something that was built and then just put there for the sake of now, with such situations, you look at the root cause of the problem. You do not look at the young people. You have to go back down and look at the root cause of the problem. If I come from a place like that, I have the privilege right now to be able on a space to hold my iPhone and be on X and on Twitter and be talking to people like this and be able to vocalize what the issues are. But the other girls in my village who were married at 12 or 13 years old and were not able to even get education don't even know that. They got Tarmac Road for the first time in their life in 2021. And you want them to be happy about the president who has been ruling them for over 40 years? These are kids who have been born during the 70s rule. They've not seen quality healthcare. They've not seen quality anything, literally. I cannot even, I don't think there's anything I can actually mention that has come out of this apart from the freedom to party. Apart from the freedom to party, there's nothing good about this regime. And when young people stand up and say, you know what, this is it. We want something different. We want to hold you accountable. We want you to implement the laws so that things are better. Because funny enough, as Uganda, we have some of the best laws in the region. If you ever sat down, and if you ask some of the lawyers here, they will tell you that if they sat down and read for you the constitution from top to bottom, you'll understand that we actually have good laws. We have so many of them that go through transportation, housing, health. But do you know what the problem is? Implementation. And because we have lacks in implementation always goes back to the leader. If my boss, who gives me the regulations and says, Evelyn, you're supposed to do this, and then I do not do it and they do not hold me accountable, I will continue being a shitty person in my job. But if my boss holds me accountable, then I'll be able to do my job. But now a president who has been a leader for years does not hold any of his people accountable. All they have to do is go back and say, Muzei has said this, Muzei has done this. How many and how long and how many more years are we going to continue living like that? That everything has to be based on what Museveni does and what Museveni says, and everything has to go back to him. Because the gentleman who spoke, I don't know his name, said that if you don't know, Museveni already knows what he's doing, what she's doing. So Museveni, who said, and I will quote this because he wrote it in a tweet, he said that if there was any corruption and there's evidence of it, he will handle it. Now you just say that Museveni already knows what Anita is doing. So if he knows what Anita is doing, are we gods? Tuli nkoko, mti agenda nagenda natuzunza natuzeedi tetumanyi kyakola. Because it just doesn't make sense that someone knows exactly what's going on, but is not doing something. What is he waiting for? Because if you keep saying that they do not want bad elements joining the fight, which bad elements? Ever since the kids started marching, from the day we started trusting kids who have been taken, there was no single bad element apart from the police. No single bad element. None of those kids burnt a supermarket, a shop. None of them stole. None of them shouted or abused the police. They shouted their names because they need to be found. They shouted their slogans because they have to stand true to what they're standing up for. But they, however, did not do anything that is against a peaceful demonstration. And because of that, it is wrong for our president to come out and gaslight us, and in a tone that you, older generation, are used to. Because that's what you're used to. You're used to being held and treated like underlings. The problem is our generation is not like that. We're not servants. We're not vazukulu. We're not sycophants. We know what we need and we know what we deserve. And because we do that, we have a right to speak up. And we have a right to hold our country accountable to us. If the state cannot deliver, then we have to hold them accountable and say, you know what? You're not delivering your promises. You promised us to secure our future. It is 2024. I promise you my future has not been secured. I have to hustle to get the jobs I get, and then I have to pay taxes for those jobs. And then after that, I have to also add my black tax, because you see, if a parent falls sick, God forbid they fall so sick, I might go through so much debt. And that's horrible. So at the end of the day, you older people on this call right now, please stop being pretentious and gaslighting young people. If you're going to speak to us, don't speak to us like we don't understand what's going on. Sadly, we're very well educated, we're very well enlightened, and we understand what's going on. So if you're going to speak to us in a way that if you know you're going to help us, help us. Speak to us in a way that if you know you're going to stand with us, stand with us. And if you want to advise us, but don't speak at us. Speak with us. I also don't speak for
Thank
us.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for adding your voice. Mama D.
Thank you very much, Canary. Good evening, comrades. The gentleman you're with, I think in studio, well, I had something else, or I had an opening speech to all of this, and I got diverted, or rather got, sidelined by what one of those men said. That gentleman, whose name I can't quite recall, talks about Ugandans, or rather the youth, being motivated by Kenya and foreign funding too much. I don't know whether these people use their social media just to come and put out whatever they have to put out for whatever office they sit in, and then just walk by without seeing what's actually going on. This thing has been going on for 2 months, or rather now 2.5 months. And it had been on social media. Whatever happened in Kenya so happened to happen when Ugandans had already actually put up on social media. Yeah, right. And they talk about foreign funding, who's being funded and who's being motivated by that. And this kind of thinking is what is antagonizing the protesters or the youth more. So I in the past week, starting with last week Tuesday, when we started talking about these things, or when we decided to protest, to do a peaceful protest, most of us did not expect to end up in jail, or we didn't expect to be carrying our friends' things back home and then be bailing them out or taking them food and their necessary needs in jail. But sadly, it happened, it's happening now. One of the people I got to meet on my frequent visits that I've been doing, going to Luzera prison, is I met one of these ladies who's young. She's called Praise. Praise was beaten up. Her wrists, actually. She's a dark-skinned lady, and by the time a dark-skinned person's skin shows that they've been beaten up, it's actually too bad. Now, when Praise showed me her arms and her wrists, and she's like, yeah, we were beaten upon being put on the Kabangali or something. And she told me, Mama D, please do something for us. Do not give up. Do not give up, right? And I look at this young girl saying, do not give up, because you would have disappointed us who are in jail or us who have been incarcerated. for peacefully protesting. We haven't done anything. We're unarmed. We did not fight back. We did not loot. We didn't do anything. So why am I saying all of this or giving this background? I'm giving this background because I would like to say this, and this is what I've noticed as Mama D. I don't know if other people have noticed it. This is corruption fighting back. This is Ugandan corruption fighting back, which is something, yes, we anticipated but didn't expect to happen, seeing as this was supposed to be a peaceful protest. Right? Yeah. Why did they fight back? Because they have the judiciary, they have police, they have DPP, they have guns, and all of those things that were deployed on unexpecting, unarmed, and harmless Ugandans who are peacefully protesting simply because they wanted their concerns addressed, and then holding up their leaders. Yeah. So at this point in time, I think, as Mamadi, sit-down strikes, and I think peaceful protests are not going to work. So I call upon the youth to join forces and carry on with the peaceful protesting or fight of protection. And how are we going to do this? We can concoct false protests to trick the officials, or rather the state, into deploying a lot of security, as they have done before and shown us that's all they're going to fight us with. And then we don't show up. And we see if the state can actually sustain this for a year, if we're going to, because we are not about to stop. I tell you for a fact, I'm not about to stop.
Trust me, Mamadi, I was at Parliament today. Okay, the road that goes to Parliament, I passed by Nile Avenue. The road was blocked. Then the other side of Senna, there were like 3 lanes on one road, which is a one-way, and then traffic around the roundabout ahead of Nile Avenue, and then everything is just a mess. I don't know for how long that can go.
But Canary, I would ask, knowing this state, do you think in terms of allowance they can sustain that? No, they cannot. So because of that, we need to show them that we are not giving up, we are not backing down. Because this thing has affected us, and it will continue to affect us. It will affect our children, the children after our children, even our children's children's children. So if we back down now, nothing is going to be done. Anyway, and the other thing is, how else do we continue protesting against corruption? Host spaces in different languages. Well done, Canary. But we need to host spaces in different languages so that everyone feels no one feels left out, because not everyone is well articulate in English, or they're well conversant with the English language. So we involve everybody like that. Then every day should have a different program to stop corruption. Like how there was someone who put up, I think it was some sort of, okay, I'll use the word menu because I'm a chef. Someone put up a menu. If you're in church, do ABCD. If you're at a hospital, do ABCD. But just show you're fighting corruption, because going on the streets is turning out difficult, and it's turning us into detainees, which we shouldn't be. Yeah. Then, if we can, we do stickers, flyers, and plant them in the night, in the wee hours of the night on the streets, to apply pressure on our leaders. Because whatever they do, they have to give us accountability. And that's all we're asking for. Yeah. And then, if we are given room, or if we're given audience, we go to police. Like we initially did. Go to police. Request for letters. Request for the police itself to escort us to Kololo grounds, because they say they want to talk to us, right? Or rather, they would like to listen to us. They want to know the routes we're going to use. We shall abide by everything they're requesting. But then we need police to protect us. Because most of the people that are protesting, or the people are marching, are elite. They have businesses. They're the owners of these businesses. So nobody wants to die in this struggle. Nobody wants to be imprisoned in this struggle. Nobody wants to lose a business in this struggle. They just want to be heard. And then we just want our concerns addressed. When they are addressed, this can only simply mean that we are in a democratic country, because that's what we have been sold. Otherwise, everything at this point in time just looks like a dictatorship. There's no democracy, because you cannot come and pick me up from a border. I'm climbing a border, and you claim I tweeted out something, or you think I am going to do something in terms of the protest, and then you carry me. I'm outside a courtroom, and then you carry me and put me onto a back of a police truck, and I end up in jail for absolutely nothing. That's bogus, if you ask me. So now, if we request for Kololo grounds and they're given to us in terms of audience or in terms of being heard, what do? We call upon every leader, every artist, these religious leaders, the political leaders. We know definitely the president will not make it there, but then we call upon everybody we want to hold accountable, or everybody we require answers from. And if they're not guilty, like Nelson said, they will answer to us. And nobody is going to be stoning anyone. Again, like we said, none of us wants to fight, because look at the things we are fighting against. Some of us can't even name them. Yeah. So when we are given Kololo grounds, we speak up, we raise our concerns, give us accountability. And now, after that, if any artist doesn't show up, we know they are compromised. They are eating government money. If any leader does not show up, we know they are compromised for one reason or the other. Then we come and attack them on social media. But otherwise, whatever has been happening, I'm going to end my submission by saying, dear comrades on this space, please do not give up the fight to corruption. We are at the verge of winning. This is not the time when we give up. The people, the youngins, and I'm going to call them that, the youngins in prison are counting on us not to give up. We hope that tomorrow, some of them come out, and on the 31st, others come out, but we are not about to give up. May the people in studio with Canary know this and make peace with it. Thank you, Canary.
Thank you very much, Mamadi. Yes, no,
Canary, just one thing before the person. I'm sorry to come in. Mamadi Mamadi, thanks for and Blanke, thanks for your contributions to this. Just since Isaac is still in studio, Isaac, you seem to have quite a lot of information about the president. And,
For context, Nelson, the show ended as soon as I opened up the microphone
okay.
here. So yeah.
Thank you, because we need to have gaslighters here anymore. People on this space who have expressed their concerns, I'm happy I was able to see Sarah onto the space. Young people are being picked up from different areas that are being waited for at different locations simply because they're hosting spaces, because they're expressing their concerns through spaces, which I believe if the government is really down for dialogue, don't know how the entire government can get triggered by merely a space. And it's quite absurd, very, very, very sad that it has gotten to the worst that we didn't expect, that a mere space can trigger the government to send CMI, not even the police, but they're sending CMI, they're sending the army, they're sending, the big guns in the security agencies to be able to crack down the young people who are expressing their concerns of different things that are happening in the country. I pray and hope that the young Ugandans will overcome what is being discussed to them at the moment to handle how they want to have their issues addressed. As I close, I will be going off. The movement is partyless, it is leaderless, it is moneyless. So a lot of people, Canary, you as well today, I think as you were hosting the space, you didn't know that Nakalema did post your pictures. Well, she said she had a very good conversation with you as leaders of the movement. The movement is leaderless. It is partyless. It is moneyless. So the conversation around foreign funding, cut that crap off the young people. You've seen how the judiciary has acted today. Yes, bail has been given, but all the funding that has gone into bail has been contributed by these young people. The small monies they have is what they've used to get their other comrades out. Again, moneyless, partyless, tribeless, fearless. Thank you, Canary.
Actually, before I go off as well, I would like to remind you guys that we're still needing contributions for bail. So if you would like to contribute, you can check Mutuzo's, Mutuzo. I'm quite sure everyone now knows her. Just check her pinned tweet. Please contribute. Many of these young people are struggling to get bail and also need sureties for the young people who are there. So get in touch with Godwin Toko as well as Rama. And make sure you are, if you're able to and you're legal enough to be a surety, please get your national ID and your local council LC1's letter, and then go to the court you'd like to. We have so many people coming up tomorrow. I'm going to post some of those details. You can check them out. I'm sure Nelson is going to post as well. So many people are going to post them because we have so many bail hearings. Please do not just only support the people that is B-Wall, Thomas, and Pfizer. There's so many young people that actually need our support. So we can bring our voices together. And if you're unable to be there physically, please speak for them online and support like you did today. So thank you so much for everybody that has been supporting the movement, that has been supporting the young people. We'll end corruption either or the other. I just hope President Museveni knows we're not against him. We are with him. We are with this country, and we are together as a nation trying to fight something that has tried to kill us as a nation for so long. So thank you again, Canary, for hosting. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I am off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clarity, Nelson, and I know I'm a leader anywhere, and it was not mentioned anywhere. To put things that not exist. Lastly.
Lawrence. Where's that?
Thank you very much, everyone who has been in conversation. Resume this tomorrow. Let's see how the day goes. Let's resume this tomorrow, 7 to 8. Good evening.